Hi, I'm Thomas Johnson.
I'm Jeff Key.
We're the GodLess Left. And guess what? Today we're talking about education. Actually, the lack thereof. You see, not just in the United States, but here in Oklahoma, our education system is getting raped. Like, no lube, raw dog, up the ass rape. And our children is paying for this.
Here in Tulsa, they're unsure as to whether they can pay the teachers, pay the school bus drivers,
or the light bill,
or even keep the lights on. Yeah.
And see, me being a single parent with a special needs child, I have to be doing schooling from home for the past 2 years through the local junior high and high school that my son should be attending. But since he has autism and seizure condition, he cannot have any interaction in class setting, or else he would have seizures. So we're supposed to be working with the school on providing what he needs here at home. But last school year was a nightmare. And why? Lack of teachers, lack of resources, lack of everything. Even the books that they gave us didn't have the information my son needs to answer the questions that they want him to answer.
And moving into this next school year, from what you've told me, they have only one program really that's designed to teach kids from school, from home that is. And
it's called Homebound. Well, the problem is this.
They only have 3 people there, don't
Three
they?
teachers to teach a homebound program for students that require it in this whole district.
Which means the students only get 3 hours a week.
And it's not a year-round program. See, 4 years ago, teachers of the entire state of Oklahoma did a walkout. Basically because they're going for years and years and years with not even a pay raise, without even proper funding to help get updated school books, materials, or resources, let alone adequate pay for these teachers to work in such conditions.
So if the teachers actually care enough about their students and their job to want to provide those materials, guess who's paying for it?
The teachers. Because a lot of these teachers had to take on multiple jobs on top of taking care of their own family and to take care of the students at their school, just to provide day-to-day necessities, both for at home and at the school for the children.
Now, Thomas.
Yes.
We're supposed to have the money that's going towards the lottery going towards education.
Yes.
Right?
Let me dip into that real quick, okay? When our state legalized gambling, that money is supposed to be adequate towards education and infrastructure and other things. And mind you, let me put it this way. That is going towards a fund for education, but yet state politicians continuously rape that fund for other needs. And let me add this. With the tribes that we have over 35 different tribes, 35 different nations of Native Americans within the state of Oklahoma that provide, as of 2019, $15.5 billion back into the state financially.
That's per year. That's annually.
For that year alone. It has grown since then. Okay, now think about it. Everyone's complaining about how bad off our education system is. Trust me, at a United Nations scale, we're like second to the bottom of the list. Yeah. We're really bad off. And yet, everyone's fighting over funding for education. But guess what? If the tribes, the native tribes, are providing damn near $16 billion or more a year into the state, on top of the breaks that they get financially, where the state saves millions of dollars from programs that they have their own, where's the money going? Because it's obviously not going to education. We are losing teachers year after year after year. And more teachers that are available are not given a damn anymore. And it shows with how the kids are being treated.
What doesn't go into the back pocket of a politician or for a arcade game for our governor is most likely being directed and diverted to our 3, at least, private prisons within this state.
And if not even that, there's other special interest projects that senators or governor have affiliations with because they're buddies with such individuals. Like, for example, the failed restaurant chain that got shut down at all the state parks throughout Oklahoma for shady business handling because it didn't go to par. And guess what? Since the reason why they got shut down is because they're overpricing the state, saying that it costs X amount of money for stuff that costs this much. And they were basically robbing the state blind. So they got shut down, which is kind of familiar to Governor Stitt's previous standings, right?
Yeah.
Because before Governor Stitt was ever elected as governor, he was running a
predatory loan company
for properties and whatnot. Let's say for mortgages and everything else.
Remember 2008, kids? It was predatory loan companies, real estate companies, that damn near bankrupted not just this country, but the world at large.
And Governor Stitt was investigated by 3 different states: Georgia, Illinois, and Wisconsin, I believe. And everything came back to him. Whether he likes to admit fault or not, he was the guy in charge of the whole company as the CEO.
Now, that company is continuing in Illinois and Wisconsin, from what I understand.
Mm-hmm.
But has been blocked from doing any business whatsoever in Georgia.
For life.
Forever.
And a lot of people lost millions of dollars because of him and his business handling. And yet, look who we have as governor right now.
And the employees, of course, got the blame. And over 1,000 lost their jobs.
And Governor Stitt found the back door and the front door to the governor's mansion. So, food for thought, people, that, I mean, he is, a proud Trump supporter. Well, I guess, like my, honor amongst thieves, I guess. I mean, shit. I mean, you have one crook backing up another crook. I kind of see the similarities there. But with that being said, we already talked about the shadiness that's going on in the governor's mansion because of Governor Stitt and his handling of federal funding.
Yeah.
So it's no surprise. But then again, past several decades, our Oklahoma education system is going down the shitter. Heck, we're not the only ones. It's happening nationwide. Every teacher in every state is getting the raw deal.
Yeah. Well, Republicans like to push for private schools, for school vouchers.
Mm-hmm.
They want to de-invest from public schools and from public education.
And that happened here in Oklahoma a few months back. But thankfully, enough people have enough common sense to see through that shit and shut it down. Because Governor Stitt and also another fellow governor, Oklahoma senator, try to push this idea through that we will create a bank account for you people, or a savings account for you people, where money and funding that would normally go to public education designated for your child will be put in that, or they can be able to have their hands on it. So that way you could pay your kid way through a private school. Well, the thing about it is that money, that $3,500 is allocated per child in the public education system. That's supposed to help provide for materials, lunches, everything else. But if they take that away from the public education, then you're hacking away at the tree of knowledge, so to speak.
You know what? I recently shared on our Facebook page about the fact that attorney generals are suing schools and the state to ensure that children that identify as LGBT or T can't get free lunch.
And that's bullshit. A child needs to eat. Okay? Again, this is also another issue involving our education system when you have people outside the education system trying to dictate what happens in schools.
And here's another thing, right? Just building upon what I already said. If you're hungry and you're starving, you're probably not going to learn very well, because your mind is not going to be on what you're being taught. If you're being taught, it's not going to be on what you're supposed to learn. It's going to be on, I'm fucking hungry, I want to eat something.
Exactly. And considering what they're feeding our kids in schools nowadays, let me give you an example. Okay, when my son started going back to school, or when he started doing the schooling from home, the meals that they provided my son from the school looked worse than any prison food that you would ever see. I swear, it's not even edible. When I went to school, we had edible food.
Yeah.
We had actual meals.
I remember Pizza Fridays.
Yeah. I love Pizza Fridays. Yes. But here's the kicker, though. The food that they're feeding our kids, good Lord, like biscuit and gravy, or like gravy burrito or something like that, is like slop. It's really slop.
They're feeding them gruel, is what you're telling me.
I wouldn't eat it. Our dogs would not even dare eat the scraps from that shit. I mean, literally, the funding to our own education system where our kids could be able to develop and grow has gone down. Even with the quality of food that they're feeding our kids has gone down. When I went to school, the people in the cafeteria made shit from scratch.
Yeah.
It wasn't free, it wasn't pre-frozen, it wasn't none of that shit. They made everything from scratch. We had they call it bean chowder. It was actually just chili with beans.
Yeah.
And we get these giant cinnamon rolls to go with it, saltine crackers, fruit, and milk. That was fucking cool. I was all game for that. But you could tell. Yeah, but nonetheless, they made shit fresh. And then once you got by the time I got into junior high and high school, heck, it looked like a fucking NASCAR sponsorship, because you go into the cafeteria, you walk out, then you turn around and look, there's Mazio's, there's fucking Domino's, McDonald's, and all that stuff. I was like, holy shit. You know?
It's a food court. You thought you were in a mall instead of a school.
No shit. I thought, goddamn, I wasn't a fat kid at the time, but I ate like a fucking fat kid. Good Lord, that was heaven for me, but I didn't have the money. Then again, that is another issue, But the point is, everything's been cut down. The teachers are still not getting paid. When they did the walkout, they were promised that they will get the raises, they get the funding, they get everything they needed. And as soon as they went back to work, the governor and everyone else went back on the deal.
Yeah.
And did not give them one fucking thing. And a lot of them retired. Quit altogether. Okay? And some of them were just stuck in a rut because they don't know what else to do. So now you have, back when I was a kid growing up, the biggest class sizes we had was about a little over 20 kids per class. Yeah. Now that has doubled, if not tripled. And you have one teacher teaching between 40 60 kids per class. And on very little materials, little funding, little anything, hardly anything. And now you have school districts are fighting to try to keep the lights on because they're not getting the money that they need. But yet, in our state, again, from the tribes alone, they're getting $16 billion a year back into the state from the tribes alone. That's not counting everything else that's going on in the state as it is. I'm calling bullshit on that.
Question is, where the fuck is the money going? And like I said, probably either their pockets or the private prisons. Because we would rather invest in prisons because you know what? Prisons provide a good, cheap source of labor than we would invest in our school systems.
But then again, we wouldn't have this issue if we just got rid of those fucking issues and problem right there and make it a government prison rather than a private prison, because you won't be making money off of every individual. People won't be stuck in prison forever for some bullshit charge.
Yep.
There's motherfuckers in there right now for just having weed.
Yep.
Back before weed was legal.
Yep.
Okay?
Yep.
That could have been easily fixed, but by the time they get released because of it, they've already been, institutionalized.
Yeah.
They're already now thinking like criminals. And
the reason the school to prison pipeline exists is because as a country, not just here in Oklahoma, but as a country, we invest more in our prisons than we do our schools. And if your kids aren't educated, if they're not learning, if they don't see a future moving forward, they're likely to get involved with shit.
And the thing about it is, it doesn't help the fact that when you have teachers that just give up, don't give a shit about their job or give a shit about the kids that they're teaching.
And really, why would they? With all that fucking stress, with having to pay out of pocket to try to make things even a little bit better, with all the parents, no offense, breathing down their fucking necks.
A lack thereof, too. I mean,
with all that stress and all that lack of pay, you're not going to attract a lot of people that really want to be there. Mm-hmm. And the people who do want to be there, they're likely to get fed up with the shit and go find something else to do instead.
That's why we have a very, very bad situation where teachers just up and retire, or they just go to another state where it's a little bit less stressful.
Now, I don't know the whole story, but my cousin was a teacher for 1 year. And he wasn't a teacher ever again after that. Said he went and worked for a cable company.
Well,
I think the cable company might have paid him more.
I wouldn't doubt it one bit. Plus, you get free premium package.
Exactly.
Yeah. But, despite of everything, you also have the fact that you have conservative, religious nutcases trying to dictate how they feel is what's best to teach our children.
Yeah, we've already talked on this before.
Oh, I know. Numerous times.
But there was the Supreme Court decision that allows now for teachers to lead school prayers.
That was thanks to this dipshit of a football coach down in Florida.
Or this dipshit Supreme Court we have currently.
Yeah. And trust me, a lot of people are still pissed off at them for the Roe versus Wade decision. And mind you, their addresses are still up on our Facebook. So if you want to write them a scathing letter, feel free to. And don't forget them. Oh, that's right. Our YouTube viewers didn't know about our little challenge. I'll get to that here in one bit. Now, so, besides the fact, I get it. We live in a conservative state of Oklahoma, which is a nightmare in itself.
Yeah.
But when you have religious extremists, conservative views dictating what is allowed in the children's library or was being taught in school. Even though the issues that they have are garnered for more mature students, they still want to attack it all as a whole. And so, no matter how retarded they may sound, they still get their way. And that's why everything that our children are supposed to be learning appropriately to better prepare them for the open world is not being taught, because little Miss Susie Bible Thumper over there is in a huff and a puff because, well, they're teaching evolution and that goes against my religious standings, and so
now
they're getting 86.
One thing that we've also talked about in previous episodes is the 7 mountains.
Yes.
Which is 7 realms, domains that the certain sect of Christians called Dominionists think that they should control. And one of those is education.
And sadly enough, they got their hooks in education, they got their hooks in politics, and media, and you name it. And you know what's fucked up? I swear, I'm sure Jim Jones is fucking jealous as hell, spinning in his grave over how fucking well off they manipulated all these fucking people to drink their Kool-Aid. I guess, like you said, they got the better shit than what he had. Because he had the Flavor Aid.
Exactly.
He had to add more shit to it. You could taste arsenic really good, but the point is,
nobody wants arsenic flavored Flavor Aid, man.
No.
Nobody wants that.
That's why they're going for their Kool-Aid brand arsenic.
So much better.
Oh, yeah. It's like, oh, yeah. Anyway, so with that being said, I'm sure a lot of you are probably concerned about your kids and your kids' education. Rightfully so. Because the state and the government in whole has been raping the funds of education for years. No matter who's in charge. It starts off at a state level. Go figure. But,
I'm not a parent. I'd be surprised if I ever become a parent. But I can tell you this. Eventually, all those 14-year-old little fuckers are all going to inherit the world at some point. You might want them to be educated and know what the fuck they're doing by the time we're old fuckers and they're taking over the planet.
You see, with me and how I'm dealing with things with my son, okay, despite the schoolwork that we received from the school, I take it a bit further. I go take him to the bookstore. We buy books on historic things and other things about mythology, other religious practices. We talk about historic things that are not being taught in school that should be taught. We went deeper down the rabbit hole on the LGBTQ history, about the civil rights movement, about the gay rights movement. We even gone farther down the rabbit hole about things that interest him. Right now, he's interested in Japanese history. He loves stories about the samurais. He's reading The Five Rings right now, which is a very awesome book. The author of that book was a famous samurai who later inspired the movies Shogun Assassin, Lone Wolf and Cub, and the manga stories that came along with that. And so that is of interest with him. He knows about the origins of holidays, where they came from originally, that the Christians stole from the pagans. I'm sorry, but Christmas and Easter are pagan holidays, and you're welcome. Okay?
How else do you explain the rabbits and the eggs?
Ishtar, the goddess of fertility.
Exactly.
And Also, you have Yule, which is a Norse holiday celebrating Odin's great hunt,
Or Saturnalia.
which is also a Roman holiday, which both are pretty fucking wild and crazy. Like, Saturnalia was a holiday that celebrated around the same time as Yule, or you Christians would call it Christmas, the birth of Christ now. It is basically a day in Rome where social standings and of people switched. It became a wild, raging orgy, a drunken orgy, where the poorest person in the capital becomes the leader for the day.
I mean, you look at the New Testament, right? You think the shepherds were guarding sheep in the middle of fucking December?
No, they're probably fucking their sheep. Just being honest, yeah.
The point is, it's so fucking cold that they're not going to be shepherding the sheep in the middle of fucking winter.
No, they're going to be silencing the lambs. Hello, Clarice.
So the chances that Jesus was born during December, if he was born at all, is extremely fucking rare.
Yeah. No.
What happened was they took that day, December 25th, and co-opted it.
Yeah. Because, you see, what they did was, what the Christians did, it was like what George Carlin said, it was a marketing decision, you know?
Exactly.
See, you have the Romans celebrated Saturnalia on the same day, and Yule is a week-long celebration. Now, we get the whole idea of decorating the Christmas trees, the whole look of what Santa's supposed to look like in his 8 tiny reindeer from Odin. Big, burly, strong man with a long white beard, being pulled on his chariot by his 8-legged horse Sleipnir. Okay? That's where we get the visualization of what Santa Claus is like. But yet, in all honesty, there was a saint named St. Christopher who took care of the peasants and the poor during his existence. Okay? He put gold and other, means of wealth in their stockings at night. So when they wake up, they had money for food and clothing and other things to take care of their families. He took care of the poor, which Christians don't do that unless it's around the holidays to get a slap on the back, But, again, pagan holidays were adopted by Christians. Even Halloween, also known as Samhain or Samhain by the Celts, became All Souls Day and All Saints Day in early November. So that way Christians could, again, recruit pagans to be Christian.
Now, to be a little bit more back on our original topic.
Yes.
The thing that I think is most valuable to teach kids is to pepper you with annoying questions. And I'm kind of joking, but I'm kind of not. I mean, we need to teach our young ones to question what they're taught, question what they're told, ask questions, be curious, try to find out answers.
Exactly. Because you know what? If you just blindly listen to what they're being told and just go on with their lives, they're not going to learn anything. They're just going to be filled with a bunch of shit that someone's going to tell them. Now, if they have the appropriate curriculum where they're educating these kids on everything that they're supposed to, then have it an open discussion. Whereas, like, okay, today we're going to talk about the Native Americans, the Trail of Tears, and the conflict with the Union and the tribes.
Yeah.
Talk about the treaties and stuff like that. Once they discuss everything, we'll leave it an open discussion. So, okay, how come they didn't do this? Why did they treat them like this? And then go on from there. Have an open discussion. Let their minds grow. Soak in the knowledge and information. That's what teaching is supposed to be. And right now, what they have instead Even though that kids are filling the classrooms and only have one teacher to teach 40, 50, 60 kids a classroom. Alright, kids, get out your tablets. Get online, do your shit. That's not teaching them.
That's babysitting at best.
Exactly. If you want to educate the kids, you gotta get hands on. You gotta get right there with them and work with them. The only reason why, this is what I was being told by the Tulsa Public Schools, reason why they're going towards online, because it's cheaper. It is cheaper. It's not because it's an easier way to educate these kids. It's because it's cheaper. It's cheaper to get a tablet to put in front of a kid than it is actually pay an adequate salary to a teacher that spent years of their life going through college to get to that point to educate these kids, just get paid less than someone at fast food. Now that's fucked up. You know, and the thing about it is, there's certain kids like my son who needs a hands-on experience to be able to physically see and understand things so they can be able to process it and get an understanding of it and learn from it. Not every kid's going to get right online and click, 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 click. Oh. Okay, I answered my problem. Can I get on Google now? Let me give you a good example. When my son was in Sapulpa schools, okay, everyone's working on Chromebooks, tablets, whatever, okay? They said that they got everything secure, nothing bad will get on there, everything's fine. But yet, sure enough, one of the kids, mind you, this is a 5th grade class. One of the kids actually got on Google and looked up pornography. That's not secure. And again, these are meant to be tools to educate and teach kids what they need to be taught.
Well, it sounds like that kid got an education that day.
A little too early education on sex ed, you know. But, mind you, that just goes to show that that's not really helping the matter right now. Year after year after year, more teachers quit their jobs because they're not getting paid appropriately. And the whole don't give a shit attitude that some of these teachers are having while teaching our kids is also trickling down to the principals, the deans, all that, who tend to look a blind eye to mischief and carnage, so to speak, bullying and all that.
Which is going to trickle down to the students, which will make them bully each other more.
Like, for example,
I mean, if everybody there is apathetic and nobody cares about what they're doing, so that includes the students. Students don't give a shit about why they're there because nobody else does either.
Yeah, and since they're short-handed on students, not students, they got overabundance of students, but they're short-handed on staff, they're short-handed on security, they're short-handed on teachers.
Because they're not investing in those schools.
And so, shit happens, and since they don't have people to spot it and get onto them and get them in trouble, they just, whatever. And when they do get in trouble, they just get slapped on the wrist, whatever, because they don't want to really fucking deal with it.
They don't want to fire the person, they don't want to let them go unless they absolutely have to, because they're already short-staffed.
I'm not just referring to that, I'm talking about the students, punishing the students. Yeah. Now, for example, a good friend of mine that was a close friend of my wife's, my late wife, her son was going to the same school my son's getting work from. And he was getting bullied horrendously.
Yeah.
And nothing ever happened about it. And then finally one day, she gets a call while she's at work that she needs to come pick her son up and take him to the hospital. She gets there. His glasses was busted into his eye. He has cuts all around his eye. His face is swelled up. And he had a concussion because he was getting bullied by a bunch of kids. They were forcing him to pay for protection like you would in a prison. Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, they were making him give them kids money, taking his mother's medical marijuana and giving it to him because he does not want to get hurt, and they still hurt him anyway. And that's because I'm just be flat out. That's poor parenting right there on part of the bullies, because if it was my kid bullying him, I already straighten that shit out real fucking quick because I don't tolerate bullies. But that's a parental problem, but also it's a school problem because it happened on school grounds. And when it was reported and it was turned in, the student in question that was responsible only got a slap on the wrist. Nothing really significant happened. Not even police filing. No charges, nothing. Even though they had Tulsa PD working security at the school, which is fucked up to begin with. And that kind of goes back to what I went through with Tulsa Public Schools with my son and how he was treated. When his seizures gotten really worse, when he's in a school setting, a class setting, one time he had a seizure in the hallway. He was out cold. And instead of people reaching out to someone to get help, they just continuously walked over him and walked on him until a student finally got the nurse to get my son up and call for paramedics. And it happened again a month, or not even a month later, but about 2 weeks later. He was in an art class. He was telling his teacher, I don't feel well. I need to sit down and wind down. Instead, she yelled at him and told him, you're going to do what I told you to do. Get back to work. And then once he made it to his next class, in gym class, he collapsed and hit his head against a brick wall. And he was out cold. By the time I got there, I talked to people who witnessed it. They told me what happened. When I reached my son, who was being surrounded by the principal, the gym coach, and the paramedics, they were telling the paramedics something completely different, and I ripped him a new asshole over it. They shut down that school, now turned it into a private school. Go figure. So, there's a laundry list of problems I could go down the list for. But it starts with showing the kids that you care, having adequate staff, pay the teachers what they need, give them what they need, get rid of the goddamn Chromebooks and actually get down the kids' level. That is what's going to help. And you know what? All the motherfuckers that are trying to dictate what we should let them read and what we should teach them, throw them the fuck out. They didn't go to college to become teachers to work with our students. They could shut the fuck up and get the fuck on. Or to quote Richard Pryor, they could have a Coke and shut the fuck up. You know? They have a problem with it, they can suck my dick for all I care. Because I am fucking tired of this shit. I understand that your religious rights is being attacked. And it's not fair when we get attacked, but we can attack all them motherfuckers. Fuck you. Fuck you and your religious right. You know, I'm sick of this shit. Okay? I understand you don't have kids, you don't understand, but I'm a parent. And I grew up dealing with this shit too. It's not easy, you know, for one, used to be Christian, then turning on the church. You know, renouncing my baptism. Yes, I renounce my baptism. It's not even a baptism, it's just like a glorified bathtub that they have in the middle. It's like, that's really creepy too. You get baptized in a bathtub and you have everyone watching. It's like, you look back on it, it's like, you know, this could be some very dirty shit here. You know, just considering what you learn about what's going on within the church. You know, for all I know, they could have recorded it and Pastor being back there like, Oh yeah, give him another dunk. Ooh yeah.
Now our lovely vice president Kamala Harris once had a speech where she laughed about the school to prison pipeline. Now, if you know anything about her record as a California Attorney General, you know that she hoped to pass a anti-truancy law, which led to mothers being arrested for children not going to school. Now, if your school leaves you collapsed and unconscious because you just had a seizure, and then they just walk over you, you might not want to go back. If they beat the shit out of you to such a fucking point that you got glass in your eye, you might not want to go back. Right? If you happen to have been involved with a school shooting, which is now happening in elementary schools, you might be hesitant to go back to school.
Exactly. And you know what's even harder, okay? Because right now I'm trying to get my son involved in homeschooling. Again, everything's online now, woo, you know. But I'd like to be able to physically work with my son and teach him all that. Oklahoma has the most non-existent laws in homeschooling.
Yeah.
But yet when you try to address the school district you're in, that, hey, I want to take my son out and get him involved in homeschooling, they're going to fight you tooth and nail because they want that funding.
Yep.
You know, and again, not just the fact that each student in the school system is guaranteed $3,000 towards the school, but their special needs and their Native American, they get an extra bit more money for that student in that school. So they're going to fight tooth and nail to keep you in that school or in that school district.
Yeah.
Because that's a tax write-off for the school. And it's also a tax write-off for employers if you're Native American or special needs.
Now, I have the idea that it might work a bit differently in the state. I'm not sure, but in a lot of places, school funding is derived from property tax.
Okay, school funding derives from multiple things.
Now, the thing is, though, that if you're dealing with property tax, that means that places that are higher up, places that are nicer and richer, are going to have more property tax, more money going into the schools. Poorer neighborhoods, their houses aren't as nice, they're not going to be taxed as much, their money is not going to go into the schools as much. So you're dealing with a economic divide right there.
But also, despite the property tax and stuff, you have sales tax, okay? You have money from the turnpikes, okay? You have money coming from, I already said sales tax, I already said property tax, I already said turnpikes.
Mm-hmm.
You also have money from water bill.
Yeah.
Your water bill also puts money back into the system for paramedics, for schools, for other things as well. So those four plus the tribes, you got 5 different resources of money pumping into the state that's supposed to be designated, if not...
Which we know has to at least be $16 billion.
At the least. And that's just for the tribes alone.
And yet, we can't keep our fucking lights on.
We can't keep our teachers paid. We can't give them accurate, materials and books for them to keep the kids educated.
And not just keep them educated. I mean, part of what it takes to be educated, part of what it takes to learn something, is to be engaged in what you're learning. If these students are not engaged, and they overrun whatever authorities are there, there's liable to be a giant bunch of fucking chaos in those fucking places.
And everyone's worried about mass shootings and whatnot and total fucking carnage and stuff like that. Look at the situation that we're setting up. Okay? Columbine, for example. Okay? That was back when I was in junior high going into high school.
I was 15 years old when that happened.
I was about the same age.
Yep.
And the thing about it is, I was a misfit. I was an outcast. I'm not going to lie. I was in a school setting where it is clicked out. And clicked out means you have different groups of kids, in one group or one social structure or another that think that they're above or beyond other kids or other groups. I didn't fit in with none of them. Not even the goth kids. And that was kind of fucking weird too. But I was getting bullied on a constant basis. Teachers know it. They didn't do shit about it because they're on the football team, or they're on the wrestling team, or they're in band. Heck, I'm in band, but it doesn't matter,
It's all about social currency.
And so when
it comes down to the parents, who has more money and who doesn't, again, social currency.
And so when Columbine happened, everyone looked at me like I'm going to fucking go off the rails. Trust me, I have enough common sense not to do stupid shit like that. But everyone started looking because those kids were bullied. They were neglected, both by their parents and their teachers. And when shit hit the fan and they actually went off the rails and did something, instead of manning up to the responsibility of them causing a lot of the issues by ignoring their constant cries for help or just allowing said abuse to happen, it just caused a chaos, caused a crisis. And thus, that kind of escalated over years. And so, again, you got to be proactive with this. You got to be there for the kids. And if you care about the fucking kids enough, then everyone needs to fucking do an overhaul on how things are going right now. Because right now, in our state, has always been, for the most part, a Republican conservative state. And even though on rare occasions we do have a Democratic governor, so it still has not changed. It's always been a red state, and the idealism of religious conservatism raping the education system as it is, and the fact that you have people robbing the education funds to back their own selfish agendas or needs or whatever, or even just flat out robbing it just so they could go on a fucking heyday out to fucking Mexico or wherever the fuck they want to go to. Or, for example, one Oklahoma senator who got busted a couple years back for hiring a underage male prostitute and doing meth with this gay underage male prostitute and encountering on other illicit activities that I think you kind of get the picture of. Okay?
But we're talking about a upstanding Republican family values.
Yes, I believe in the Bible. I believe in conservatism. I believe in cornholing this underage male prostitute while doing a line of meth off his ass. That is a good example why our state's fucked up. Because shit like this is happening all the time. For fuck's sakes, a few years back in Creek County in Sapulpa, we had a judge out there that got busted for using a sex toy on himself while presiding over a case. And he did that multiple times. And all the cases that he oversaw and all that got thrown out. So guys that were in prison because of this judge
were released, whether they deserved it or not.
Exactly. I think a lot of them didn't really deserve it to begin with, considering what I looked up back in the day. But nonetheless, they got thrown out because, you know, he's operating a fucking motorized pocket pussy while he's at the podium. It's like, oh, Jesus fucking Christ. Look where Oklahoma education is leading us to, people. So, earlier I mentioned about a challenge I made. This is on a video that we posted on Facebook because we couldn't really get the computer here to work for us to do a video here. So, here's the challenge, people. I hope a lot of you are listening and following and getting the picture here. Okay? All you people that are fucking tired, sick and tired of the senators that we're dealing with representing our states, fucking us over. Whether it be fucking over our healthcare, our education, our human rights, like Roe versus Wade, or civil rights, gay rights, whatever. Those who are attacking us as a whole. I want you, and I'm going to do my twisted, evil, satanic, evangelical. Brothers and sisters, listen to me now. I call upon you in the name of our Lord Satan, Lucifer himself, the light bringer, for you to write a scathing letter, if you will, to those people of ill repute up there on Capitol Hill. I want you to write the nastiest, loathsome letter you can find. Tell them how badly they are fucking us. And in doing so, provide them the nastiest, raunchiest sex toy you could find from the local adult bookstore. I want you to write that letter around that beautiful thing. I want you to melt to them and tell them, since you're fucking us, I think you should be fucked too. Because I think they need a good fucking better than before. Since they're so frigid and so concerned about our reproductive organs and our sexual behaviors, I think that they need a little taste, a little something better for themselves. So get a little tutti frutti, send them a nice booty. If you want to give them something long and hard, give them the American challenge, a good long black dong. So, to quote Otis Ruggers, it's black and huge. Send it to them. Make them see how badly we are getting fucked by them. And I am serious, ladies and gentlemen. Their mailing addresses is available. Write a letter. Buy a toy. I don't care if it's an inflatable sheep, a pocket pussy, a tranny doll, or a rubber dong. Buy what you can. Pack it up. Put a nice letter in there, nice and neat. So when they open up that box, they're going to get an eyeful. And they know real well who is fucking them. Because I guarantee you, they deserve a little shock and awe. The senators need a little shock and awe. I don't mean violently. Be humorous with it. Okay? So that way no one gets in trouble. We can get our point across. And everyone gets a laugh out of it. Because just imagine their assistants in their office. They open it up and a giant fucking rubber dong just pops out. Okay? It will give them a shock and awe, and it will send them a message. And I promise you, people, I promise you, it will get a response. It will get noticed. And if we have to, we will share this video, and I'll make it a lone video just to talk about this, so we can share to the world. So, in closing, let's do what we can to better our hopes for our children's education, especially if it means giving a little shock and awe to the senators and our governors. I'm Thomas Johnson.
I'm Jeff T.
We're the Godless Left. Stay tuned for more throughout the week and next week. Check us out on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook.
Peace the fuck out.
Deuces, bitch!